Welcome friends, it is I, LostScarf, and it's time for the Beginner's Guide to Loki. That's right, we're going to play Loki this time. And as always, this is for beginners, not for intermediate or expert players. Maybe there'll be something that you didn't think about in here, but this is definitely for beginners who have not played Loki much or are wanting to look at playing Loki, and this will be for them. So it'll be some stuff that'll be very helpful for you, pretty safe stuff, and as you get better at the game, you'll find ways to improve on the build or playstyle as you go. So that's really what we're going to do here. We're going to go over Conquest and Arena, how to build him in both, how to play him in both, do's and don'ts with him, go over his abilities, counters against him, and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and have some fun. So who is Loki? Well, Loki is the Norse god of tricks, and they ain't for kids. He's all about playing tricks on people and killing gods in less than 2 seconds. Loki's forte is 1v1 sneak attack, but his kit makes him versatile enough to be a lane god or a jungling god. He is all about hit and run tactics, while personally putting himself in harm's way, so he must be played smart and carefully. If you like sneaking around and snapping people in the back, Loki's your snake in the grass. So what are Loki's abilities? Well, first up is his passive, Behind You. What happens here is he has a 20% damage bonus when he backstabs an enemy. Then there's his first ability, which is Vanish. Loki goes invisible for 4 seconds and gains a 35% movement speed bonus while invisible. If he strikes an enemy god within 6 seconds of casting this ability, he deals damage over time for 2 seconds. And it's pretty good damage there as you level it up. Loki's second ability is called Decoy. Now what happens here is he throws out a decoy of himself, and after 3 seconds it explodes. Now what's cool about this ability is it attracts enemy minions. So you can put this on the enemy archers, and the melee minions will go towards the archers and they'll all get blown up together. At a higher level, it does a lot of damage. And the other great thing is, you can use this ability to draw fire from enemy towers. Then there's Loki's third ability called Aim Strike. What happens is for 5 seconds, his next basic attack will do more damage, and it will slow the opponent by 25% for 3 seconds. Then finally there's his ultimate, Assassinate. What happens is Loki will teleport to his opponent and stab them in the back, which also stuns them for 1 second. So it's good to cast Vanish and Aim Strike before you do this, because it'll all get hit on them, they'll take a bunch of damage, and since they're stunned you can hit them a little bit more. Something important to note is, if you use the ultimate on an area where there is no god, you will teleport there. So if you miss your shot, you put yourself at risk, but you can also use it as an escape if you need to. Loki in Conquest. Now I feel solo lane is the safest way to play Loki for beginners, so we're going to talk about him there. For advanced you can play him in mid and in jungle, and he's very good at those as well. But solo lane is definitely the easiest place to play him, so it's just a good spot to talk about for beginners. On the screen here you'll see just the core 4 items for his build and some other suggested stuff to talk about for it as well. When you open the game, you'll open with Devo Gloves 1, Hog 2, 2 green potions and 2 blue potions. With this you'll have a pretty good safe game at the start of the game. You'll be able to clear out lanes pretty well, and jungle camps when you need to, because your decoy just isn't there yet the first couple levels. Later on it will be, but the first bit, Hog will help you out with all this, so that's good there. Now as you go, you'll finish off your Devo Gloves, you get Boots, you'll get Hi-Rez Lament, and Jotun's Wrath. The reason why these items are core is, with max cooldown, Loki can harass a lot. Hi-Rez Lament and Jotun's Wrath will give you all the cooldown you need, and you have a lot of pen to really break into your opponent, and that'll be great there. With Hi-Rez Lament, it has a passive of giving you more damage when you use an ability for your next basic attack, so that's really good there, especially because Loki will go in there and hit with maybe Vanish to get the shot, or go Assassinate for the shot, so you're doing a lot of damage with Loki, and if you do it right, you will get a lot of kills there on your opponent. Now the other items are definitely very optional as what you want to do. If you're ahead and just doing a lot of damage and your opponent's not building a lot of defense, you can go for crit items, as you can see here with Rage, Malice, or Deathbringer, stuff like that. Honestly, if you feel like you need more lifesteal, if you're going to play some sort of long game go on here. And Seal is if you're fighting a mage and you're stalemating the lane pretty much. Like if you're not able to win your lane and you can only hold the lane, Anti-Heal's good there. You can use it as a replacement for one of the cooldown items, because you'll be able to just hold a lane, fight the opposing mage, and keep them out of commission in a way, because they have to keep fighting it because Loki's so lethal in the solo lane. If you need some defensiveness, you got Magi's Blessing there. If you need to break someone open, maybe it's a physical opponent, you can go for Titan's Bane. And if in the rare chance you're fighting an ADC, then you could go for the Witchblade to slow them down, have some physical protection, and just beat them up as well. And when you get them is really the question. If you're getting beat up pretty early, you can get it before you get Jotun's, maybe Hi-Rez Lament, depending on what you need to do. If you feel like you're not going to get a lot of kills, you might want to build one of these more defensive counter build items earlier, or maybe later, depending on what you want to do. But really, these 4 items are going to serve you very well. Then there's the actives. Now, the actives being suggested here are Fist of the Gods is the final active, and then Beads. The reason why you want Beads is because when you go in there in Ultimate, you're going to put yourself in a big risk of getting CC'd, and you might die there, so the Beads will save your life with that. Now you can experiment a little bit, and maybe you want to hold a lane for like ever. You can go ahead and get maybe Teleport. That'll help you out with that. If you want to be really speedy with your Vanish and everything else, you can get Sprint instead. Those are some little experimental things. You don't have to get them, but Fist of the Gods and Beads will serve you very well for a beginner. And then of course you want to get potions around the early game of things, and later on you want to get wards for defensiveness and to get vision for your team and yourself. Now in the laning phase, you want to focus on leveling your decoy. And really the idea here is you max out your decoy first, then you put up your vanish, and then your aim strike, and finally your ultimate whenever you can. And you'll just be able to do a really good amount of damage with poking and clearing stuff like that. With max decoy, you're able to clear a lane very quickly and very easily. Because of how effective decoy is at clearing, you can basically set and forget a lane a little bit. You can put the decoy out and go get a jungle camp. You can put the decoy out and go harass the enemy god in the lane because the minions will not be able to fight you because they're dead. Or you put the decoy out and go gank another lane. That's the great thing about Loki is you can basically set and forget with that decoy quite a bit. So what are you doing about the enemy god? Well, you're constantly poking them with vanish and aim strike because they don't have minions to back them up because you're clearing them out with decoy. And when you have them low enough to kill with Assassinate combo, then you do that. That's really what you're saving Assassinate for, either to escape in case of a gank, or to finish off an enemy god with the Assassinate combo, which is Vanish, Aim Strike, and Assassinate. Use them all together, and you will most likely get a kill very easily and quickly, as long as the enemy's in the right condition for it. Now, if the enemy is a healer, it's a lot harder to do that, and you may have to just stalemate a lane, and what you do there is you just keep decoying and killing the lane, and maybe going over and ganking another lane to use your Assassinate, or just hold that lane down and hold the enemy god there, because if they try to gank, you'll gank as well, or you'll clear the lane and push the tower. Because of how well you can clear a lane, you can actually push a tower very quickly and take the tower while the enemy's gone for a gank run. It's very amazing how quickly Loki can do that when you have a good run. Now, eventually the laning phase ends as everyone levels up and the lanes start to become just a big team fight everywhere you go. Loki is not so good at fighting teams. He's more of a 1v1 fighter, as we know, but he does have three main functions during the team fighting phase, and that is backdooring, taking out separated gods, and cleanup duty. So what's going on here is that during the team fighting phase, Loki is pretty good at taking out a tower on his own. He can put out a decoy and then beat the crap out of a tower pretty quickly. After 2 or 3 decoys, he'll have enough time to kill a tower, or at least wound it greatly and distract the enemy gods while he's running around. Because you have Vanish, it's really hard to catch you, so you can backdoor and not worry too much as long as you're smart about where you go. The second one, of course, taking out separated gods. With the help of wards, you'll know where the enemy gods are a lot of the game, and you'll know when someone's separated from the group. Either they're trying to backdoor, or they're just somewhere else in the jungle trying to get some camps to level up. So while they're separated from the group, Loki can 1v1 kill them pretty quickly, and then it'll be a 4v5 for the next teamfight situation. And finally, there's cleanup duty. What happens here is, as the teams are fighting each other, they're weakening each other. So as your team's weakening them, they're weakening your team, you can run in there, maybe assassinate or vanish and finish off an enemy god. Someone that's a big problem for your team. Maybe a mage is being the problem, maybe an ADC, maybe the guardian if they're low enough. Just take someone out who's being a problem for your team, and if enough of them get cleaned up by you, your team can maybe come back and finish everything off. That's really what you do there is single out and take something out as the team fight is going on. You don't initiate into it, you come in after the mayhem has started. Do all this correctly, and you should cause a lot of trouble for the enemy team, and cause a good chance for your team to win. Do's and don'ts with Loki. First up are some decoy do's. You want to use the decoy on archers, because if you're not putting it on the archers, they will shoot it at range and not get hurt by it. Another is, as you're running away, you can use decoy as a body block. It's not easy to do, but it can be used that way. Another thing that can be done is using the decoy to relieve pressure on other lanes. Say maybe the mid lane's getting attacked and you're kind of in the area, you can run over, throw out a decoy, hit a bunch of the minions there so they don't hurt the tower yet, and then go back to your lane and do your job. Lastly, you can use decoy to distract a tower. You can use this to have the tower attack your decoy before it attacks you while you're backdooring, or so it's attacking your decoy instead of your minions so that your minions have longer to do damage to the tower before they get killed. Then you want to keep in mind you should always remember to use Vanish and Aim Strike before doing Assassinate, so you'll do a lot of damage there. And lastly, try to use Vanish for escaping first before resorting to Assassinate. If you can do that, then you don't have to waste your ultimate, which can be used for later things. Then there are don'ts. And they're simply, don't miss your ultimate. You do not want to miss that. That puts you in a bad spot, so don't miss. Another is, don't attack a group of gods. Obvious right there, Loki's a 1v1 fighter. He fights a group, he will die, so you definitely don't want that to happen. Another is, no matter how low the enemy god is, early game, do not dive. Loki can only take 1 or 2 tower hits pretty much, and he will die, so it's not really good risk, even if they have 1 hit till they die. And lastly, don't activate abilities too close to the enemy. They will hear you. This is very important. Loki's abilities are very loud, and if you do it from the jungle to a lane too closely, they will hear you and then they'll back off. Loki in Arena. Now you're going to see a build here on the screen, and it is Hydra's Lament, Warrior Tabi, Jotun's Wrath, and 3 crit items. The idea here is to have a lot of power, good amount of penetration, and max cooldown so you can do things very often and hit very hard. Now if your opponents do have some defense, you can switch out a crit item for Titan's Bane. If they have a lot of ADCs, you need to survive a little bit. Then you can get Witch's Blade to deal with that. If you're fighting a lot of damage in general on both sides of the thing, physical and magical, Shifter Shield could help you out in survivability, and then there's Magi's Blessing if you're dealing with just a lot of CC from the enemy team. As far as actives go, you can go Stun Fist if you think your opponents will survive a little bit and you need to finish them off a little more, so it stuns and hold them down longer. Maybe you want to just run in and do a lot of damage quickly, you can go for Sprint. Beads is very important because it will help you survive after you go in there and kill somebody, because then you can ignore CC and run away. And then there's Combat Blink, which is very useful in not getting killed. You run in there, maybe with Vanish and Assassinate, kill a lot of things, you don't have any way of getting out there, then Combat Blink will save you. And just with Assassinate and Combat Blink, you'll be very hard to kill. You really will be, so it's quite useful if you want to use that. So in Arena when you're fighting, you're very hit and run, stalker kind of god. You're looking at the squishy gods, focusing on catching them when they're off guard and then killing them if they're separated, or going after an enemy when they're low and taking them out. So you're constantly vanishing and trying to catch people when they're just a little away from their team. You're exploiting weaknesses. That's the way Loki is played. You can either play him two ways. You can play him 1-for-1, where you go in, kill someone and get killed, or you play him carefully and waiting for an opportunity. It's a very patient style, and that's the way I think you should do it is wait for an opportunity, wait for someone to be low enough to kill, or wait for a squishy to open themselves up, and then take them out horribly, destroy them, and then get the hell out of there with the help of your actives. There's a lot of ways to get out of a situation, there's a lot of ways to get into one, and with Loki, you can cause just so much mayhem and kills, it's great. Loki's weaknesses. Now there's 3 or just 2 real counters against Loki, and that's Aegis, Beads, and to an extent, being grouped. A group of gods is something Loki shouldn't deal with, so if you're grouped up, Loki won't deal with you. So that's kind of a way to counter for him, but the real counters are Aegis and Beads. Use Aegis to survive Loki after he does Assassinate, use Beads to ignore the stun and get the hell out of there. That's really it. With Aegis and Beads, Loki can be prevented from getting kills, and it's very annoying for him for sure. So in conclusion, Loki is a very tricky god, and in the solo lane he can be a major pain in the ass. If left alone, he can quickly clear a lane and destroy a tower, or run over to another lane and gank and knock the enemy team off balance very fast. Even if the enemy solo keeps an eye on you, you can easily stalemate the solo lane with your decoy and essentially make the enemy solo useless to their team. And the longer the fight goes, the stronger Loki gets, and eventually your opponents will cause a mistake which you'll be able to capitalize on and cause a lot of trouble. Loki is a true snake in the grass because he's making the enemy team paranoid, because at any time, Loki could be backdooring, he could be catching someone separated from the team, or he could be lying in wait to clean up the enemy team as they're getting softened by his teammates so that it'll be a harder time in the team fights. So that's it for the Loki guide there. Hopefully a lot of people learned from that. And a big thank you to Darth Maladash. She helped out a lot in some of the information and getting a better understanding of how to play Loki for this guide here. Up next is going to be Amazen Cub, and that should be a lot of fun. It should be pretty sweet. And after him should be a warrior god. We haven't decided who that'll be yet until after we do the Amazon Cobb discussion. So that should be it. So that's the guide there. I had a lot of fun making it. Hope you had a lot of fun watching it. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.